Hello again, guys. Welcome back to another Big Al Devlin here at the House of Devlin on YouTube. Today I'm going to be discussing for the very first time in detail, explicit detail. I'm going to give you every single detail I possibly can about my experiences that I had when I essentially died 2 years ago during a car crash. I will give you a brief background of what happened, how I was kind of dead, not fully dead, but mostly dead, so to speak, as paganists would put it. But I will give you a complete and explicit description as best as I can of what I saw, what it was like, and and how I came back. Okay. Now, I just want to make it clear that this is not a religious video in any way whatsoever. Before my car crash, before my accident, I was completely 100% atheist. I believed that there was something watching over me. I believed in fate. I knew I had a 100% belief in fate. Because to me it was only logical that fate existed, you know. So it was even from a science point of view, fate is inevitable. Of course, it exists, but I also did believe deep down, perhaps, that there was something else out there watching over me, and I didn't know what. And I thought that if I died and I didn't have the answers to such questions, of course, that perhaps I would die an atheist, and my afterlife would be that of an atheist. You know, that I'd rot in the ground, or I'd be burnt, and that would be it. But having experienced a car crash and having experienced an afterworld experience, like I did from dying, I can tell you for one thing for certain that, of course, I gained faith, and I knew exactly where to place that faith. When I came back into my body and I reawakened, I mean, it wasn't on my mind at that point in time. I had other shit to deal with, such as treating my girlfriend and making sure she was safe, because of course she was more seriously injured than myself. Getting myself seen to by because I was bleeding all over the place and I was seriously injured myself. But several days after the crash, when I had time to process everything, this is when obviously I began to develop faith and belief in something beyond myself, beyond this world that we can see. And I began to recall, of course, as I say, what I'd seen in the world beyond this world, so to speak, or one of the worlds beyond this world. I'm not saying it's the only fate, because of course it isn't. I'm sure we all have different experiences when we go, but at the very least, I can tell you what my experience was. So, 2 years ago, well, just less than 2 years ago, I was in traffic on the motorway. Had nowhere to go, had an articulated lorry in front of me, and I noticed in my rear mirror a truck hurtling at tremendous speed. It was at that point that I knew I was going to die. I knew I had no time to evade this truck that was coming straight at me. I knew that not only I would die, but also my girlfriend, who I love very much, beside me, would die. But I wasn't going to go down without a fight, and so I looked to my left, saw that the first lane was full, and as soon as I looked to the left, I thought, well, you know, I've got to go somewhere. So I pulled on the right, towards the right on my steering wheel, and tried to get us into the fast lane, where there was no cars coming and there was no cars blocking us off. Unfortunately, obviously, I didn't have enough time to react. You know, I had superhuman reflexes in many respects to do what I did. So to expect more of me would be ridiculous. One funny thing, actually, it doesn't relate to obviously the death, like, you know, the after-death experience or anything like that. But in the hospital, while during recovery, the police actually came to me and said that I was a hero. Not only had I saved my own life and the life of my girlfriend by trying to evade the truck, But I'd also saved the life of many other motorists probably, or certainly prevented them from getting injured by preventing a pile-up. Because what happened is when I turned to the right, when we got hit from behind. We did go into the truck in front of us, but there was enough of a sort of angle where we bounced out and we bounced into the centre of reservation and got spun around and received several other collisions. But luckily, no one else was hurt, and that was it. The injuries remained with me and my girlfriend alone. So, luckily, I mean, I don't feel like a hero, but luckily, at least I had the police on my side, and they were singing my praises so much. I mean, they didn't just say it to me once, he said it 4 or 5 times over several days, just how good a driver I was to have protected myself and my girlfriend in such a way, and strangers, as I say, on the road. However, it didn't prevent us from getting injured, as I say. We received a blow from behind when we got hit. The 30-ton truck was travelling 52 miles per hour, and of course we also got struck by the articulated lorry that was in front of us because we got pushed into it, and we also got struck by the central reservation also when we got flung into that, and our car got spun around about 2 or 3 times before it came to a stop. So we suffered quite badly. And the results, I'm not going to discuss my girlfriend's injuries because one, it's not applicable to this video, and two, that's her story to tell, not mine. It'd be an interesting story, but I very much doubt that she'd share it with you or give me permission to share it on her behalf, because she's just getting on with life, and the way that she finds best to get on with life is to get on with life, and that's it. Whereas I do like to talk about things because I find it develops my understanding of what happened to me. It gives me wisdom. It gives me an understanding of, what might happen again in the future, and so on and so forth. And so discussing it is very important to me. That's why I do these YouTube videos, because of course not only does it help me, but it could of course help others. There may be people who in a similar situation, and my videos may just help even just one person. If that's the case, then fantastic, they've done their job. Of course, regards to this particular video topic, there'll be many of you who are interested in what is afterlife. Is there an afterlife? Is there an afterworld of some sort? Is there a heaven, a hell, so on and so forth? And really the only people to ask are people who die and come back to life. Now, obviously, most experiences that people give are that of a bright light, or family around them, or voices and things like this. And quite typically it happens in a hospital because of failed surgery. Now, obviously, this was not the case with me, because I was in a car, I was in a motor vehicle at the time when I was unconscious. I was made unconscious due to the blow to the back of my head for 30 minutes. And on top of that, my heart had took such a beating. My chest had been injured so badly that my heart had stopped pumping, basically. It was trying to pump, there was some electrical activity, but if you'd measured my pulse on my wrist or my neck, you wouldn't have found one. I had no pulse for about 30 minutes before my body said, fuck it, no, I'm gonna fight, and bang, all of a sudden my heart started pumping again. But for 30 minutes I was essentially dead, and I didn't have these typical stereotypical experiences because one, it's not my belief system. Before I went on to the crash and had an accident, I was an atheist, absolute atheist. I did not believe in a god or gods or an afterworld or anything like that, and so I wasn't expecting anything anyway. So when I saw this truck hurtling at us and thought, oh shit, we're gonna die, because I honestly did believe we were gonna die. I had 100% certainty that this was going to be my last 1 or 2 seconds left on this earth. It was a terrifying experience, I must admit, in many respects. I mean, fear doesn't overtake you because you must go down fighting. Yes, this is my belief system, okay? My Viking spirit, if you wish. But it doesn't take away from the fact that it is a horrific experience to go through, if nothing else. Especially when there's someone else involved, someone else that you love. But obviously the cynics have their answers to all the other generic answers, as I say, the lights above people and stuff. Oh, sorry, the voices of family, or having feeling that the family is around them, or voices of people and things like this, could all easily be discounted as experiences of the hospital itself. The lights above the person, family being in a waiting room, maybe they can hear them talking. The doctors themselves, for example, might be their voices that they're hearing. And of course, that would be the cynic, and the ultimate cynic's answer would be that they were high on morphine and other analgesics, for example. Of course, are very trippy. They make you see and hear things that aren't there. But of course, I'm not downplaying people's experiences whatsoever, because having gone through a death-like experience, I can tell you, if it was real to you, it was real. Because my death-like experience, I don't care what people tell me, it was real to me, and it was more real than this, right? It was more real than making this video is right here, right now, because of course I do suffer from dissociative symptoms. I feel often that I'm dead, that I did die that day, and that this is some kind of afterworld playing some tricks on me and stuff. I've done videos on that called Walking Death, or Waking Death even, which is a Celtic faith sort of system that deals with the situation. And so is Celtic God, a friend of mine. He's done a video on it to help myself and help others who have been through similar issues. But my experiences, as I say, cannot be discounted so easily by the cynics, because, as I say, I was in a motor vehicle. Yes, I'd received a massive, huge blow to the back of the head. As I said, I had a headbutting competition with a truck, 30-ton truck that was travelling at 52 miles per hour, and I lost, basically. That's the way I often put it. And I love to use humour to sort of make it sound, a little bit better than it is. But I did. I had a headbutting competition with a truck travelling at 52 miles per hour, with 30 tons behind it, and I tell you what, it well and truly won. Because my skull, oh my god, it hit so hard. I was put out unconscious for 30 minutes, and as I said, I had no workable heart rate. My heart was trying to work. I've got ECGs to show what my heart was doing. It was failing at what it was doing, but it was trying. But it was not working. There was no pulse. And that's only when the ambulance people got there, which was towards the end of the 30 minutes that I would remain unconscious. So it was perhaps even longer that my heart was failing to work. It may have even been 40 minutes rather than 30 minutes. Now, what happened during those 30 minutes? Well, of course, last thing I remember is seeing this truck, and it hit us, and then that was it. And the next thing I remember was this tremendous feeling of peace. I can't explain it, other than I felt pure 100% peace. There was no other emotion or feeling or thought in me other than peace. I felt no fear, regret, desire, nothing at all. I just felt peace. And I was I was part of a meadow, a lush green meadow. It was almost as if I was a blade of grass, because I don't think I had fully reached this particular after realm at this point. It takes a while to sometimes travel to these different afterworlds, but I was essentially looking. I was there, and I was essentially amongst the grass. If I wasn't a blade of grass, I was certainly lying down in it, and I remember the smell of the grass, and I remember feeling how pleasant the environment was. It was warm but not cold, the sort of weather where you could, if you want, take your t-shirt off and you wouldn't get cold at all. But you could wear clothes as well, and again, you wouldn't be overheated. It was the perfect temperature. I remember that there was sun shining through the leaves of the trees that were above me, and the sun was where the warmth came from. But as I say, the shade, the shade that the leaves gave, made it so that it wasn't burning my skin. It wasn't, because I'm being ginger. I don't like to be in the sun. It was soothing to be there. There was a gentle breeze, and I could hear a babbling brook in the distance, a stream, for all intents and purposes. I could hear. I didn't see it, but I could hear water running over what was obviously stones. And I can visualize it almost perfectly now when I close my eyes. And I remember feeling just complete and absolute peace. And I remember feeling that this was to develop. I remember that more and more of me was coming to this area, essentially. And that meant all of me was here. Perhaps I might be able to experience this world fully and completely. At this moment, all I could do was watch. I couldn't interact with the world, so to speak. But then in the distance, I heard screams. I heard my girlfriend's screams. She'd obviously just woken. She took about 25 minutes, 30 minutes to wake up from her injuries. And I could hear her screaming that she doesn't want to die. She doesn't want to leave this world. That her leg, oh my God, my leg, look at my leg. I don't want to die. Please help me. Somebody, please help me. I remember the panic. I could hear it in her voice, and I can still hear it to this day, and it upsets me talking about it. Because, of course, that, again, was a horrific experience, and it seemed so out of place in this world of pure peace. I still felt peace at this point. But I could hear and feel the chaos that was above me, or beyond me, in another realm, it felt like. And so I decided, no matter how peaceful this place felt, how beautiful it was, and how sublime it was, I could not leave my girlfriend alone. I couldn't leave her suffer alone. And so I decided to try and make an effort to go towards the voice. As I say, I wasn't physically in this realm at this point in time. Couldn't interact, I couldn't walk, couldn't move. But my mind seemed to think, if I go over, if I focus on the voice, I'll go towards it. And that's exactly what happened. And the next thing I feel is me almost swimming in darkness. I felt like I was swimming in darkness, trying to get back to my body. And as I'm doing so, I can remember in almost dreamlike state the truck hitting us, the image that I saw in my rear mirror. I kept going again and again and again, like a recurrent dream, as I was swimming through this darkness. And at this point, I had no idea that I'd been hit by. I had no idea that I was hurt. I had no idea that we'd been involved in an accident. And then the next minute I know I was in my body. I was chewing on glass, hearing my girlfriend screaming. I was just trying to I suppose my body was trying to activate itself. It was trying to rejig itself, my heart, so on and so forth. Everything was trying to turn back on. And at that point, all I could do was just chew on glass. That's all I could do. It's all I was capable of doing. I suppose the pain was trying to wake me up. I don't know, chewing on glass, because of course the windscreen was completely smashed, would hurt your mouth, right? And so maybe that was my way of trying to wake myself up, get me lucid, so that I could help my girlfriend. And then I remember blanking out a little bit more, but holding on enough, and then all of a sudden, I remember it, as I said, I remember my girlfriend there, and I became fully aware of her being there and me being there. And at that point, my memory of what I just described to you then went completely, because of course I had to focus on her. I had to focus on myself. I had to focus on, being put in an ambulance, being sent to hospital, dealing with the police, the firemen, everything like this. My family, her family. So much stuff was going on. It was pure chaos. But then a few days later, as I say, I began to develop dissociative symptoms where I was convinced that I was dead and this was not the living realm. And that process is called a waking dream, or at least that's how I have come to understand it. It's a Celtic mythology and belief system, and as well as an ancient Nordic paganistic belief system. They call it Uttengard, okay, and or it's an aspect of Uttengard at least, anyway. It's only as I sort of began to analyse what happened to me and what I went through that all of a sudden these memories of what had happened, what I'd seen when I was not of this world, whilst my body was either dead or dying and my mind was giving up. I remembered everything that I've just told you. Now, of course, what does this mean? Well, it means that I went to some kind of afterworld, and I know exactly what afterworld it is. At the time, I had no idea because at the time, as I say, before the car crash, I was an atheist. I had not studied Nordic paganism in any way whatsoever, but at that point, I started studying different things, and I found out, of course, that realm that I described as a perfect description of forgive my pronunciation if it is incorrect, but of Folkvanger, which is the meadow of the dead, which is where Freya, who is a Nordic goddess, took her warriors or her men who died bravely fighting or protecting those loved ones to her realm, and her realm was this meadow, and that's exactly where I went. I went to Folkvanger. I was chosen by Freya to be amongst her, and what an honour. I often long in some ways to feel that peace that I felt when I was there, and I often long to be in the presence of Freya once again. But I know that I fought so hard to get back to that mortal, to here, to this real world that I now know is real. Having discussed about what is a waking dream, and that I know this is the world of the living. I still feel dead, and it's a horrible experience, but I know that my thoughts are not real on that. It's just simply that my soul is not contained fully in my body. That it's sort of partly outside of my body, and so it doesn't feel like my body is completely mine all the time. It feels alien in some ways, and that is a product of as I say, the waking dream. And I've done a video, as I say, and so has Cossack God done, I think, 3 videos on the topic, so please watch those videos for further details. But this experience immediately made sense to me when I look further at it, that the gods that watch over me, I mean, I made my decision that something had watched over me immediately. When I remember in the car crash, when I was during my most lucid moments, which weren't that many lucid moments, but during the car crash, or certainly the week after the car crash, when my mind started to come back, I knew that I hadn't got out of that car crash through anything but sheer goddamn luck, and that as a result there must be something watching over me, protecting me to some degree. And so as I looked into it, I learned that the one thing that I had always believed in since I was a child was fate, and that fate play is essentially an essential backbone of Nordic paganism. And so I decided to delve deeper into it, not for the purpose of becoming a Nordic paganist, but to learn more about fate. That was my interest at the time, and about this field that I saw, and so on and so forth. And through knowledge, of course, comes wisdom, I suppose. And as I learnt more about the religion and studied it and presented it to you here on YouTube, as I gained a full understanding of it, I discovered that this was my faith I'd always been looking for my entire life. I was born a Nordic pagan. I just didn't know it. And I discovered my faith through death, through seeing what waits for me on the other side. And yeah, it wasn't Valhalla, guys. You know, there are other heavens and other underworlds, so to speak, that Vikings and Nords can go to. And for me, I went to Folkvangir. I don't know if I'll go there again. Next time I die, if that happens, so to speak, I don't know. Maybe I'll go to Valhalla. Maybe I'll go to Folkvangir. Maybe I'll just go to one of the many heavens that the Vikings believed that just normal people went to. But I honestly, truly believe that my place is in Folkvangir. And if that's the case, I will happily go there because it was beautiful, sublime, peaceful. And if that means that I am there for the purpose of defending Freya during Ragnarok, so the Viking apocalypse, I'll happily fight and die for her a true death, with no issues or qualms whatsoever. Just for a taste of that beauty that she showed me. Yeah. As you can probably tell, I do miss it. It was beautiful. And that's the hardest part I find of the waking dream or death-like experience, is that if you do experience your heaven, so to speak, it makes you want to go back there. Now, don't worry, guys, I'm not suicidal. I never commit suicide. I'm here because I fought to be here. I fought so hard. I swam through that darkness, and I could feel every muscle burning because I was trying to get through that darkness back into my body. It took an extreme effort, such an extreme effort to get back into my body, that I know I'm here because I want to be here. And not only that, but because obviously the goddess Freya allowed me to be here. If she did not want me to leave, she would have kept me in the meadow. I suppose she respected the fact that I loved my loved ones so much and so dearly that, of course, she would allow me a chance to protect them. But as one of her holy men, so to speak, and I'll get into that in another video in part 2. But when you go through a death-like experience, like I've just done, as a Viking or a Celtic, as a pagan, essentially, you do become a holy person, so to speak, a druid if you wish, but a holy man, that most definitely, and you can become a very respected person in pagan society. I'm not looking for that. I'm not looking for fame or anything like that. But if that is why I'm here, to help spread the word of paganism, and to convert people, then so be it. I'll happily fulfill that role. I'm sure I'm here for more than just that. That's just an element or a part of why I'm here. But I will fulfill that role fully and completely if called to do so. I think part and parcel of surviving death is relearning why I'm here. See, it's easy to answer what is the meaning of life? It's to live. That's an easy question to answer. But when you've lived, died, and come back to life, what is the meaning of your new life? That is a hard question to answer, and I believe that you are not supposed to be able to answer it, at least initially anyway. It takes many years, it takes a long journey, and it takes a lot of life experiences to come to that particular answer, and you may never come to that answer until your dying day. Perhaps you are fated that when you finally find that answer, it's because you've succeeded in whatever you are here on this earth to do, and that's the day that you will die and return back to the peace that you once experienced. At least that's the way I see the world. So thank you for watching, guys. So I hope this I hope this was a good one for you guys. It gives you insight into what I saw and how it's influenced my psyche since. Thank you for watching. Goodbye and good night.